Well, thanks for joining me here at the SDTS, Sage's Next Big Thing weekend. Really appreciate it. And Sharona, I want to start with you.
Sure.
You've been really instrumental on the push and adoption of surgical robotics in primarily hospital settings. And I was just curious, what is it that you look for, the institution looks for, if I'm a new emerging tech company coming out with a platform? Where have you seen the mistakes made on bringing those in, and who helps make the decision in the organization?
What we need to think about, do you need to get the buy-in from? So it's always a combination, and it's about the relationship between the surgeons and administration. So the first thing that needs to happen is the surgeons have to be familiar with the technology. And if they're familiar with this technology and able to utilize it in their operations within their field, they're more likely to promote it if it's good technology. I can't tell you how many times I had technology that was not quite good, and I always tell the engineers, if you're sensitive, don't come to my operating room because I'll tell you exactly what I'm thinking. But then I found out that's exactly what they would like to hear. But putting it in the surgeon's hands is key. So I think, first of all, developing a relationship with the surgeons, because they have to work together with administration to help administration decide which technology, because we're bombarded with a lot of great technology, which one should we bring? It's all very costly. So which one should be the best thing to start with? Get the surgeons to use it, get familiarized with the technology, and then make it cost effective. In other words, you want to have the best technology that will allow you to do safer operations, minimally invasively, and then not cost as much. So I think that's a key thing that they need to remember. And many times they're not necessarily knowing who to approach first. And I truly believe that it's a relationship. It's not one person. But getting the buy-in from the surgeon is absolutely key, because when we promote it to the administration, you get it done.
Jawad, your experience on the adoption and ongoing utilization of new tech, and what do the emerging tech companies get wrong or need to keep in mind?
You know, I think it's a brave new world right now for medtech. The reps aren't really allowed to go to the hospitals and the ORs like they used to. And so you have to have a strategy to engage clinicians outside of the hospital. And I think LinkedIn is a great way to do that. If you have a presence on there, people are engaging with you. The first time you approach someone is not going to be their first impression of you. So I think that's kind of sets the base layer. I think after that, most hospitals have a contract with one large, device manufacturer. And to get something that's outside of that is going to be an uphill battle. And so when you are that new device company and you're going to fight that uphill battle, you have to really have a strong argument of why that clinician is going to go to bat for you, because it's going to be a long, hard road for that person to get your product into the hospital setting. And so, some things that you have to think about, I think cost right now, everyone is sensitive to that, specifically in the ASC, which we can talk about, also in the hospital setting. What are the improved outcomes? What are the specific outcomes that are going to do better than the current device that's being used or the current standard of care? And then what are the things that the clinician can bring to the administration that's going to convince them? Because if you just tell the clinician, this is why we're better, they're not really equipped to go to bat for you.
So, a surgical robotic platform is very complex and feature-rich, and sometimes too feature-rich, in fact, because that just adds to cost. So when you think about the surgical robotic platforms right now, soft tissue basically in the US are what, a Census and Intuitive for the most part on the soft tissue side. So if I've got, I think last count was more than 50 soft tissue robotic platforms in development right now, how do you hip check out an Intuitive, or in some cases an Census?
Well, I have an opinion about everything.
And I want to hear it.
But when it comes to, it's true, we keep seeing more and more robotic platforms, and there are more to come. I think it is good to have a variety of robots to a certain extent, because it will drive cost down. and bring different technologies like Intuitive versus Medtronic and some of the others. With Intuitive, you have an immersive type of experience. You're engaged, like when you're working, you're inside the patient's abdomen. You're not distracted from what's happening in the room. However, I'm like my mother. I can tell what all my kids are doing upstairs, even though I'm downstairs. So when I'm on the robot, I can hear the room and I can see what I can hear them, I can feel what they're doing, but I'm not seeing them because I'm focused. So I like that kind of environment. While some of the other platforms, you are able to sit, watch the screen, and operate that way, and then you're more aware of what's going on and you have eye contact. I think it's a preference. So having a variety of platforms, that's a good thing. But I think that having 15 of them is not what we need. What we need is adjuncts to the robot. So we have this amazing several generation advanced intuitive surgical. But there are things that we can have the other companies help Intuitive in getting the operation safer and easier and from every perspective. And Intuitive is doing a great work with their ecosystem and how they provide everything from training to instrumentation to safety. But like there's small companies that think about how can you see the blood flow in the vessels? If you want to do it, I do Whipples and esophagectomies and gastrectomies, all robotic. It's transformed my practice, robotics and Intuitive specifically. So if I'm seeing the blood supply, which I know there's some companies that have that technology that courses through the vessels, that would make my decision as to the anastomosis and where I'm going to do what I'm going to do much easier. That right now we don't have that in the platform. Different things I would want them to think about, like I still have to have a few more trocars through a multi-trocar port that are laparoscopic for just retractions, right? So you have four instruments, which are amazing advancement over laparoscopy. I control my scope and I control 3 other instruments, but I need some more retractions sometimes rather than just one retractor. And so if I had like intraperitoneal retractor, right? How about, which I know that there's the other companies that make some of them, but nobody really makes something that we can use in robotics. So that will be a good tool. Cleaning the scope. Some of my operations take between 4 to 8 hours. And how long do I spend trying to getting the scope out and clean it? Something simple is like having something in the peritoneal cavity and being able to clean it right then. So I would want to see more technology as adjuncts to robotics rather than just more robots.
Jawad, what features would you be looking for if somebody were to put a soft tissue robot in? First of all, hip checking out an Intuitive platform once it's in a hospital already, we sort of know that's not going to happen, right? And we can get into where the changing centers of care are going. But as far as features right now that you think are opportunities for organizations, as Sharona had shared, don't come to me with another robot. Come to me to augment the capabilities in the robot, either visualization, access, retraction. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the surgical robotics market is $9 billion a year, projected to grow at 7% annually, so it's understandable why so many companies and investors want to have a horse in the race. I think for me it's exciting to have competition. I think that's going to drive Intuitive to, come out with more and better things. It's also going to drive other companies to see what they can bring to the table. One thing that I'm passionate about is addressing the surgeons' needs, because we're already facing a huge workforce shortage. It's a difficult work environment. Not everyone's practicing until 65. Not everyone's doing full-time practice. And so to me, what's exciting as a differentiator is things that address the needs of the user, which is the surgeon, in terms of ergonomics. What does it enable me to do in terms of recording or customization? And then also, how do you integrate the whole spectrum of delivery of care and not just the intraoperative piece? How do you include preoperative factors, combine them with what happened in the OR, with postoperative outcomes, and come up with something that allows a surgeon to give very specific recommendations. Something I've been thinking about is like for hernia, we use BMI, which is already such a poor tool. And it's varies so much from person to person. And so, for example, if I give them your profile, they have a different ideal BMI than my profile or Sharona's profile, you know? Even things like mesh size, you know? We have like the same requirement, like 5 centimeters of overlap. Maybe that's not true for certain people, you know? And so if a company can really integrate all of that information and give the surgeon actionable data to act on, along with some of the ergonomics and video recording capabilities, to me those are some exciting factors.
I think that outcomes is essential. Hospitals are being evaluated based on their outcomes now. Surgeons are being evaluated based on their outcomes. So really putting the data together is key. Or getting all the information from the EMRs and looking at what's going on in the operating room. All the companies that are now looking at the dynamics in the operating room, turnovers, all of that is so important. So I agree 100% that that's where it's going. And then you talk about training, right? I know that Intuitive is looking into that. If they can get together all the data from all the different experts, surgeons, right? And get their stepwise of different operations, the robot eventually, with AI and machine learning, will be able to train residents and fellows and other surgeons what's the ideal step that they should take based on other experts' experience. And so where it's going, it's incredible. But how do we all those companies work together so we can get there faster, I think is key. So I love the competition, and I think that the more companies, not as many like 15 and 20, but there are 15 and 20, but different areas, different specialties, so they're not all in the same specialty. But I do want them to really work together to get somewhere faster in a way, but that is still safer. And to decrease the size of the arms of the towers. Right now that we're just looking into more and more space occupying robots rather than less. And so I think that will be another element that I would love to see in the future.
Well, you mentioned that. It's interesting. So the form factors now, when the first form factor was introduced for the most part 20 years ago, it's the same form factor we're seeing today, right? We have the immersion in the system where we have an open console. Got it. And then we've got a system that's got 4 arms coming off of it. But now we have companies like Moon Surgical, which has got a very interesting platform. We've got virtual incision. Again, different form factors. So do you think there's a place as an and instead of an or on these very large form factors like an Intuitive or a Census or a CMR for that matter? And as a surgeon, are you married to a specific form factor, or are you open to considering other form factors that are brand new procedurally from you and workflow with your team?
I love technology, so I'm always open. I tell people, bring your technology, and I'm willing to try it. I will choose what's best for my patient. I like where it's going also with endoluminal operations. I mean, wouldn't that be great if we don't have to make an incision altogether? So I think that right now I'm using Intuitive, and I think for a very long time, because I don't see other products that with that many generations that will provide the same quality, but I'm always open. It's just a matter of bringing it to the surgeon's hands and for us to try it and see what works best for the kind of operations we do.
Jawad?
I mean, I think, changing the form factors is a huge opportunity for differentiation. I think, for example, going from one cart with 4 arms to modular arms is exciting. You might only need 1 robotic arm in addition to your laparoscopic setup. You might need 2 or 3, and then that might give the facility the flexibility to have more robots in the OR versus having to have a huge cart and console and tower for every robotic case. I think it also opens up the ASC market nicely. I think there are going to be procedure-specific robots, but I think those are going to be more niche. I mean, I do like having one robot like Intuitive has done across multiple operations, obviously, in the subfield of soft tissue. And then I think giving the surgeon the flexibility to have the console. Like for example, why can't it be that you can have a screen or a headset, you know? I don't see why you couldn't have that option open to surgeons. I mean, I think I would like to see more range of motion on the headset side. And so I think on the ergonomic side, that's relevant. And then on the cart side, I think it'd be interesting to see what it looks like having different form factors. I do think certain things are not good anatomically. Like if you have a greater than 2 centimeter incision, for example, I think that opens you up to a higher hernia risk. And so I think there are some like physiologic limitations to that. But outside of that, I'm excited to see what comes out.
But my plan in the near future, working with Intuitive and the SP, is convert, because I convert all my open Whipples to robotics, multi-trocar. And my goal now is to convert everything to single port robot. And so it will be interesting having multiple arms within one incision. And right now the port forces you to make a certain size incision. But what if we push that to even make it more flexible? Because right now the trocar is really hard. And so you can't minimize the incision. But all of these are great opportunities to minimize the number and size of incisions, yet do big operations because they have all those arms that come out of one little trocar. So the future is exciting.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your voices and thoughts on this at the, again, disruptive conference here that we're at. And you're both, I think, sort of pioneers in pushing the edge of this. So more adoption, more utilization of all kinds of robots is good for everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to be
Thank
here.
you very much.
I'm Joe Mullings, SDTS Sagis. Next big thing. Be well.